Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Human Colony Hucolo webinar. It is Saturday, the 24th of November, 2018. And today, as our special guest, we have Wendy Wolfe. She is from Languages of Light. You probably know her from her YouTube channel. She has over 1,000 videos. Her main topics are always mostly light languages, but all the things that come along with that. She's been discussing, and she draws all kinds of different light languages as well as speaks them and teaches people to speak them. She does all kinds of classes and channels, and if you look in the description, you can read all about her and find her YouTube link as well as her website. So welcome today, Wendy.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Did you want to introduce everyone in the room?
I will do so, sure. Today we have in the room Christine, Dawn, Jonathan, Micheline, Michelle, Reinhard, Tammy, Trinity, Will, and myself, Karen Newman, as well as Wendy. And then on the YouTube chat, Dawn is monitoring the YouTube chat. There is a link to, if you want to come in, it's been put in there. If you would like to live, I don't know why I do that, but I always do that. I went to the YouTube and then I hear myself. But if you want to join the room is open. We have room for 25 people. So definitely everyone is welcome. So just a few housekeeping things to tell you that this is the Saturday Human Colony Hucolo webinar. If you'd like to know more about Human Colony, go to hucolo.org. And then if you would like to join the Club Hucolo for $10 a month and support all the works that Human Colony does, like providing these webinars and our many classes that we have, you can go to hucolo.org/webinars and join the Hucolo Club. Also on Friday nights, is Ian here? I don't see him. Okay. Well, on Friday nights, we have the free channeling class. And if you would like to join that, you could go to Facebook to Hucolo free channeling class and you join the group. And then every Friday, there's a link put up and it's a safe place for people to learn to channel. There's some people who are just starting. Some people are quite experienced, but it's a very nice get together for everyone to share their channeling experiences. Also on Amazon.com, we have the Lightworkers Handbook. It's from the Galaxy with Love, the Lightworkers Handbook. It's a book written by Jim, Charles, and Max Rempel. It's a culmination of all of Jim's channelings for about 5 years, put together in a very concise but very, very well written book. It talks all about the universe and the different beings that are there helping us and guiding humanity. And you can get that on Amazon.com. And it's also an audiobook. So if you're too lazy to read, you can just you can listen. What is the last thing? Oh, on the beginning of the beginning of January, we're coming to the end of the year. Jim Charles will be teaching a Galactic Reiki class, and you can find out information about that on hucolo.org coming up. And it's going to be one weekend, and it's going to be a Galactic Reiki class for teachers. So if you would like to learn to teach Galactic Reiki to other people, then that's your class. So I think that's it. Oh, and the last thing for the month of December, the last webinar of the year will be with a very special guest, a dear friend of mine, Rob Gothier, who channels Treb and Aradif. He will be here, but the Saturday webinar will actually happen on Friday night. So it's going to be it's going to be a Friday evening, U.S. time, Friday evening webinar with Rob Gothier. But we're still going to call it the Saturday webinar just because we want to mess with people. All right. Wendy.
I'm just loving, and I love Rob so much. And yeah, I do. I love him. He's one of among Jim, he was one of the many channelers who was imperative part of my own growth process. So I'm really excited to see him back on. And since he's put it out to the world, hey, congratulations, Rob and Kalina. They're expecting their first baby. So I'm so excited for them. So just wanted to say that. But
nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be great to have him. So, and then in Friday in December, check the schedule, but it's going to be just a who's who of Hucolo channeling. It's going to be Jim and Max, probably going back and forth. And then we're going to have to sum it all up. We're going to have Rob. So it'll be really fun. month of
Oh,
December.
that's going to be very exciting. Wow, that is exciting. Well, before we get into our thing, I'll let Karen drive it, but I just wanted to see if anybody else, besides myself, and perhaps Karen, would like to offer a light language blessing today to kind of start off our day. And
one as well, I believe. Or is he? I don't know.
Where is he?
We assumed he would, but we'll see.
We assumed Will would.
So I guess he's going to do one as well. We'll start off. We'll start off with some light language blessing. For who wants to start? Will, you unmuted so quick. I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Will. You go first.
Men first.
Yeah. That was quick.
Only human colony. Okay, go ahead. If you want to show your face too, that would be great.
Oh, really? Oh, come on.
Well, you're just a green blob to us now, but it's whatever you want to do.
How's that? Hurahatarskani iata oraharskait anawia. Yaharata utoku shashai. Shahika ona nawara haskatarina na auhuka asheshiwi oko onahai. Yahara arskaisha. Ya arnana akuh arsayiaka. Wa ar hasanana ahiata awarasanana archichia. Hultako ura hurshishikawaranani iaka ura shikawahasasisi. While these energies are changing, while you experience and feel these energies, allow it to flow through your heart centers. For your heart. The truth. And it is time to rise into your true, authentic self. For we are all one. Be your awesome self. Namaste.
That was perfect, Will. That was perfect.
Go ahead, Wendy, if you would like.
Nishara kisina borihono karia kaya sosala. Metia sinadorian doroshan warkia korea sosupala halakaliano no krokoikia. Zesete. Sina sosumali gero shoro colombo kora. Nitala sino sopaliki malita. Kamoro koshonatela kila isosoi. Lisinotori keshamari kiasasona. You speak of oneness, and yes, today is a day of community, of unity, and today's date actually equals 1. And so anybody that knows me knows how much I love the idea of harmony, oneness, the idea of unity. And today, this day is about coming full circle, about becoming one with ourselves and shining our own one true light, that holy fire that burns within us. Absolutely everything is a reflection of everything.
Thank you. Should we just start and maybe I can say one for the end because that was so nice.
Absolutely. Go right ahead. You start where you like and we will flow from there.
We'll start with you. So, Wendy, you've been speaking light languages because that's primarily what you do. That's right? You're primarily speaking light languages.
I would say primarily that's what I do. And that actually opened the door to channeling for me. In very large ways and very quickly. It was actually within a couple of weeks of beginning to speak light languages that I actually started being aware of channeling. What I realized in pretty short order was, in many ways, all my life, it started connecting the dots that I have always been channeling and that I have always been receiving this information that I never really understood where it was coming from, but yet it was coming out of my mouth. And I really had no idea because my experience hadn't lent to that information, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And so in other words, I was counseling people at a very young age in a way that I really didn't necessarily have, but I guess I did have the experience. But at any rate, the light languages really opened that door for me to the awareness that I was already doing it, and then the ability to connect to more collectives. And that's how that all came to be. And one of the very first energies that I connected to and channeled was in a very early, it wasn't a Saturday webinar, but it was a Hucolo light language event. And it just came out one day. And
language gyms, right?
Yes, it was one of the light language gyms. And so for me to be here today is very special for me, because this is where it all began for me. And I had been familiar with many, many channelers prior to finding Jim. When I say many, I mean all the ones that were out there, including Rob. So it started with Bashar. I found Sean Swanson, Abraham Hicks, and it really wasn't until later I actually started watching Abraham. I was watching everyone else, Daniel Scranton, Roxanne Swain. Actually, Roxy, we all came into Human Colony all at the same time. It was very interesting how we all, now we're up on, coming on 5 years now that this community, this very unique community began. And it was actually through me searching on the internet for other channelers, including other Bashar clips, which were very few and far between back then. You'd find them and they were gone, kind of a thing. And so I found Jim. I found Roxy, and then I found Jim. And then it was interesting because I was so shy and so afraid. And I laugh now about how this really has come full circle for me because of how afraid I was when I was coming into those hangouts. And I was just an observer. I sat very quiet in the corner and observed for a really long time, just listening in complete amazement at what was happening. I really didn't understand what had brought me there or why, but yet everything started, it was all of a sudden the puzzle pieces started to come together. I started to understand why I had been guided to do many of the things and read many of the books that I had been guided to over, say, like the last decade. And then how my life and my childhood had such of course, as all of us, we create an experience, and how that experience truly brought me to this day, this now, and finding Human Colony and founding this and finding the light languages. I was actually kind of surprised that, like when I met you, Karen, for example, and several other people like Sabrina, for example, who was doing the light language gyms at the time, that many of you had been speaking them like all your life or since childhood or since teenagers. And so I learned from one of my girlfriends, we had a little secret language, but it wasn't light language. It was English, kind of a thing. And we had our own little name for it. But then I realized that was also part of my grooming, if you will. So yeah, I would say that my highest joy and excitement right now is speaking the languages, helping other people. I'm amazed at how many more people now, like hundreds, thousands of people who are speaking them, want to speak them, are starting to write these symbols and don't understand. And they're contacting me, what's happening? What is this? What does it mean? What's it for? Who are these? Is there a translation? How do I know what I'm saying? How do I know what these languages are and where are they from? And, so I had all the same exact questions as everybody else does. And I still do. Every day I still, I do.
So, because you kind of jumped ahead, but do you have translations now for the
quite a bit? Actually, in my videos, I've seen them morph from the very beginning. It all began with, they were telling me one day in the forest light codes. They said something about light codes and videotaping light codes. And after I began speaking the light languages, then they started wanting to combine the two. They said there was this alchemy of bringing in light languages while speaking at nature. So many of probably the first year of my light language videos were very short, and I was not behind the camera. I was just speaking the languages to nature. And then they were.
We lost you there. No, we've lost your audio.
That was weird. I wonder how I got muted all of a sudden. That was weird. Am I good?
Yeah.
So I started making videos in the forest in the woods one day when my guides had come to me and they said that they were the emissaries of the Light Collective, and that I was ready, and would I begin making videos of nature, of the light codes, and speak the languages, because there was an alchemy that was happening that it was time for me to share with the world or whatever. And so it was almost as if the light languages and the emissaries of the Light Collective kind of came through at the same time out in the woods. And I didn't know really anything about technology or YouTube or anything. And I wasn't really even sharing on Google. I was very, timid, but it was as if the translations and the channeling started kind of happening simultaneously. So the very first videos were very short, and they were just light languages. And I started receiving information about, this is because this is to help this chakra system, or this light code is to help open this portal, or this is to help connect to the Sirian collective, or this is to help connect with the Pleiadians or the elementals. And so the information started kind of flowing in with the videos. And so as they started to morph, I started actually, like, now most of my videos are both as much light languages as they are information, guidance, translation. Translation is not really the proper word. It's an interpretation, because really what we're doing is we're interpreting what we're feeling, and we're taking all these packets and packets of information, and as any channeler will say, it's this information that's coming through, and then I'm trying to dissimulate it and into an English language. But then again, there's many of the light languages, as we know, speak only to the heart, and that's the entire video could be nothing but light languages, nature.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. So why don't you, for people who don't know what light languages are, assume for a moment that the people don't know anything about light languages, what they are, and you can say what they are and then what they're for. What are they for? Because I think that was important. You said some languages speak only to the heart. That's important to know. I think that's my light language, speaks really to the heart. It's not really translatable word for word. It's an activating energy transmission. But why don't you take a few minutes to talk about light language as what is light language? Because even though a lot of people here speak them, they probably still don't quite know what they're doing or why they're doing it. At least from your perspective and your experience, what are they and why? Yeah.
And that's exactly it. It is my perspective, our perspective, each and every one of us. And my perspective is, in my experience, that this is what they began to tell me, that it was really the language of the universe. It's such a multi-leveled thing, where they try to show me, even in visions, where it is almost like music. As water sifts through sand, it has a healing quality to it, that when you hear it, it touches something inside of you, that harmonic chords are being strummed. People will become emotional because they're connecting to something. That is, it's, for me, it was such an emotional experience. I would just weep and weep and weep. The very first light languages I ever heard, I began to cry, and I didn't understand what I was hearing. I didn't understand why I was having the experience I was having when I was listening to them, and yet it made me want to listen to them more. And I began to understand that the purposes for them were so multidimensional. They were to activate that, what we call our junk DNA. They were to help activate synapses in our brain that have not been illuminated to us in this awareness yet to allow us to connect higher and other dimensions. When we say higher, it's just new numbers, but to higher fractals of ourselves, which gets into a whole nother conversation, but to other, my angels, for example, it was like I felt as if the angels and God and all these energies were coming with, and they were just settling with me in my heart, and all of a sudden my heart would expand, and it was this inexplicable bliss that was nothing I had ever experienced before. And I started to understand a little bit about, once people will talk about speaking in tongues, and you would see people just and really, I think they were really just channeling. In some ways they're just channeling that energy, because they're dancing and so many of us that speak these languages, if somebody were to watch us for the first time, they might be a little freaked out, because you're sometimes they can sound pretty powerful and strong. And so for me, it was, I started to understand they were healing. They were healing in a way. When we say healing, there's so many facets to this, but when we say healing, what they really means is they are allowing us to help raise our own vibration, that we literally become vibrating at a higher frequency of the being that we were a moment before. So when we say healing or changing our past or healing our bodies, really what we're doing is, in my understanding, is we're literally changing our vibration to where we are no longer vibrating at the frequency of that version of ourselves, and that thing and the past and all the things that go with it are no longer present in this version of this body. They're that powerful. And then I started to draw them and draw the symbols, and they started to show me, okay, these are transmissions from other planets. These are codes of information, alphabets sometimes. However, sometimes one symbol, as we know, can contain so much information that we can take that one symbol and apply it to a particular frequency, and then ask to become the frequency of that symbol that we are intentionally applying that idea to, and using that symbol to create a physical manifest a new physical reality. They're that powerful. And this information has been more and more pouring into me, especially since 11/11/11, our last class that we did on embodying, our true light. More and more of how these are going to be used. One of the first things when I first started watching Bashar, and this goes way back, he presented these symbols, these Sirian sacred symbols. That's how this happened to me, I believe. I was literally, as he said, once you start using them and meditating on them, and he actually gave instructions on how to use them at the time, and which ones to look at first, and in what order, and for how long, and how many times a day. And I took this extremely seriously. It was as if it was my classroom. I couldn't get enough of it. I didn't know what would happen to me. I just felt like this was the most exciting thing I could have ever done. And these symbols are what created these manifestations for me. And it was years after that I found light languages and Jim and all of that. So these were the activators for me in many ways, because I did it intentionally. I said, yes, I want to do this. How does that work? How does that symbol help me connect to the star Sirius and the Sirian beings? And what is, and so I started just asking my guides, and slowly was being given the information, because if you ask and you want to know, you will be guided. And then the gift, though, is trusting, right? It's all about us trusting information we're getting, because you're like, I can't possibly be talking to the Pleiadians or the Sirians or, how can that be? But this is exactly what this is for. And so they're to help us connect to our multidimensional selves. They're to help us understand that. I've also taken the Galactic Reiki classes, and they're to help us understand the alchemy between the power of the languages, how we can apply the symbols along, and many of us sign, which this is also a way to connect to our other star beings, to connect to each other. And I got a really weird, not weird, that's you know, that's a label, right? I got a download the other day about, and I'm trying to assimilate it, about how to, and I'm being guided to share this right now, how to bring the sounds of light language to the hearing impaired. And so I just it was something that I thought about this week. And so because the sound heals, and we know that sound heals, music heals. And these create such a high vibrational frequency, these light languages, regardless of what scale they're on the music scale, if you will, because these expand beyond the music scales. This is not, you know, this is beyond this. This is what they have told me is the symphony of source, and that each of us is universal chord. Each of us individually in all of creation, and that's all of creation, vibrates at such a specific individual chord that we all create the harmony of the symphony of all that is. And these light languages and light codes that are coming through are what we need in a given moment. What's interesting about these languages is that if you listen to, you can listen to them the same one multiple times, and each different layer or level or frequency that needs to reach you in that given moment will be different, because your light body, every time we change our frequency, we are never, ever the same. None of us that came into this hangout are the same as we were 2 seconds ago. So when we begin to realize how new we are every now and how we can apply this to that, it all becomes this, you start to receive simply by intuition how to use them for your body, to how to connect to other worlds, if that's what you want, how to activate your own light languages. I didn't even really know I know, it's like I didn't know I wanted to speak them until I heard them. And once I heard them, I knew I wanted to speak them, but I didn't really know why. And so it's that whole going without expectation, and then being guided to the information.
I want to read something to you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, because when I first started speaking in tongues, you know, I was in Christian church, and I wanted to see if it was strictly a Christian phenomena. It's not. But they call it speaking tongues, but throughout history, they're called ecstatic utterances. Did you know that?
I have heard that term, but
they're saying ecstatic utterances as a phenomenon are not an uncommon human response to emotional events. They have been recorded throughout human history. In ancient Byblos, 1100 BC, Ammon is said to have possessed the supernatural ability to speak in ecstatic languages. Plato, several centuries before Christ, mentions pagans who spoke in ecstatic languages. Well known among them are the Dionysian cults, the prophets of Delphi, the maidens of Bacchus, and the Corybanites. Virgil mentions how the priestess on Delos became unified with the god Apollo and spoke with tongues. Many of the mystery cults and religions, the cults of Osiris, Mithra, Eleusinian, Orphic, etc., practiced ecstatic vocalizations, claiming them to be and believing them to be supernaturally induced languages. The practice is not only common among some groups claiming to be Christians, such as the Jansenites, Quakers, Shakers, Mormons, and Charismatics. It's also practiced among Muslims, the Persian dervishes, and the Eskimos of Greenland, I don't know if you know that, have all reported speaking tongues, as well as the pagan cultures of Tibet and China.
Yeah. Okay. So many things you just said resonated with me on such a high level, because one of the dreams I had, I woke up and I wrote that in one of my very first journals when I found Bashar and all this. I woke up and they were telling me, you are an oracle of Delphi. And I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what? So a lot of what you said resonates a lot with me, because it makes me realize that I must have parallel realities in many of those things that you mentioned, because there were certain words that, or, names, or that you would, and I would, that chord would ring where you're like, okay, I'm connected to that. I don't know how, but I am.
They've done all kinds of scientific studies, and they do show that there is something that happens within the brain, that it is actually a language that is being stimulated. I look at it from the perspective of the vibration of sound, that it is able to activate, create, and possibly, manipulate the world around us based on whatever it is that we're speaking, and for whatever purpose that it is coming out through the certain person. I can also imagine that depending on your perspective when you're speaking, depending on the person themselves, it can be a high language or maybe even a low language. I don't know. I think you're probably only focused on speaking the higher languages, but
I'm pretty much. I mean,
languages out there as well.
And some of them will come through, and even early on, they kind of freaked me out a little bit, because they were so strong, and the image of the being sometimes. And so this is what I want to say to you guys, is that it is all of those things. Sometimes a being will show themselves to me in the vision as I'm speaking. And then it's like, okay, then I know I'm connecting to that being perhaps, or they're speaking with me, or maybe they're speaking through me. I will get, like, as strange as this may sound, but for me now it's become like second nature. But like, I'll be like, for example, the other day I was doing a video and I literally hear them say to me, hello, we are the Sky Collective, and we have come to share with you this message. And as odd as that may sound, or may have sounded to me a while back, to me, it feels overwhelming, this overwhelming feeling of bliss and love. There's this knowing that I can't even hear those words if it weren't true for me. And that's what we have to remember. That's the power. And what you just said, Karen, too, about manipulating matter, that's exactly what this is about too. I've brought this up before about the actual word spelling. When we spell something out, we're creating something tangible that wasn't there before, a physical sentence, a paragraph, which can become a novel, or so forth. So we're literally, and with the sounds, we're literally creating something that didn't exist before. It's an alchemization that every time is different. And they explained to me in more than once, and brought it up again this morning, about each and every one of us, if you could picture yourself as a kaleidoscope, that every single time you turn it, every single one of those are a part of you. But imagine if those never ever, if there was an infinite number of every time you turn that, and then each of those have an infinite number, and each of those have an infinite number. It's like, they were saying to me, if you guys could only understand all the pieces that are coming through when they're coming through these languages or these symbols, that you would begin to understand that really, they've even showed me that one symbol or one page or of something, for example, could mean there's an entire story. Like this one, for example, I just opened to this page today, but this, like, several people have a different interpretation of this. And yet I'm not even clear of what it is that they were trying to tell me when I was drawing. But after I look at it, and I look at it over and over and over again, I mean, I did this one, if I even dated it, which I'm getting better at dating it. But this was actually for a client, but this was a couple of years ago. And so, this is what came through for that person. That's what they needed. And so these are so multidimensional, so multi-level that and layered that they're useful collectively. They're useful for, like, now they're showing, like Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson's been using, he was one of the first ones doing the light code circuitry that I was drawn to him using them as well. And how does he use it? And I'm like, how does that happen? How do you do that? And so I started asking my guides for information to teach me, because and it only stands to reason now, because he channels a being from Sirius. Well, these symbols were from Sirius, and so that's what activated me. So it would only stand to reason sometimes that, and that's another thing. Sometimes I'm being guided to my Sirian self, if you will. Then so the emissaries, the Light Collective, really are a collective of beings that they said to me, we really are like you. It's our highest excitement in the universe to get together as collectives to lend our experiences, to lend our information, to lend our ascension processes with you. And we offer this experience through these light languages. We offer these experiences through these light codes. They help you see a glimpse into our world. They help you interact with us in a way you never were able to do before. They and emissaries of the Light Collective is a really long thing to say, so they've like allowed me to use Emily as an acronym, as a shortcut, a nickname, if you will. So they're like, they are also a collective of collectives whose highest joy it is to share with all that is what they have learned and to interact with us. And so I could be speaking, and in one sentence, like the Pleiadian collective could be speaking, the Lyran collective could be speaking, the Sirian collective could be speaking, so on. Then there's times when they'll tell me, hi, I am this individual, I am this being from this place, and I'm speaking, or this is from Beetlejuice, for example, so we start to receive the information as we ask for the information, and we validate it, as what happened, like even with Sapphira, Trinity, we're receiving the same information about light languages. And it wasn't until we shared it outwardly in, publicly or with each other, that we realized how validating that was, that we both were receiving exactly the same information about ways to use the light languages and why they're coming through and what they're for. So I'm going to take a sip. Is there any questions or anything? I know I've been talking a while.
I'm because you're talking a lot about extra dimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of your light languages coming just from your own soul? Or
absolutely.
Are they all communications to someone for something, or some of them something that's just, say, coming out of you for a certain purpose?
It depends on the circumstance. The answer is yes to all of those. And I know how frustrating that is for people, because it's like, well, then how am I supposed to know? But that's part of the the discernment.
How are you supposed to know? How do you know what your light language origin is? How do you know where it's coming? Like, I always had the impression that my light language was the utterances of my soul.
I feel different parts of me at different times. Like, and when we say utterances of your soul, we have to remember that you, Karen, as a soul, you as an energy, as a soul being, have an infinite number of other souls that are connected to that soul. And so, yes, each of those souls, it is the utterances of our souls, but each of those souls could be having a different experience on a different planet. They could be, or they're the angels. So many times they'll come to me, or it'll be, I'll be speaking a language, and all of a sudden I'll start to cry. And it's like I hear in my, like a whisper, and it'll say to me, hello, it's Mother Mary. I am here to you. I am here to comfort you. I am here. And then I just, the waterworks start. So when I say, how do I know? I guess it's more of a feeling, like, oh my God, I know this to be true because I know I can't experience this otherwise. You know, you can't experience something you're not already the vibration of.
Light language that's Mother Mary.
Pardon me?
So if you're experiencing a light language that's Mother Mary, you're saying that then Mother Mary is coming to you and telling you in English that it's her.
It's interesting.
Yeah, right? Because here you are speaking this language and you don't have the understanding of what it is you're speaking until Mother Mary comes to you and tells you in English what you're speaking.
And it could be that it's just for that moment, that brief moment. It could be that it's just the thing that even she like wants to say right now is, I am a frequency. You can become the frequency of me, Mother Mary, and connect to that frequency and literally feel my presence within you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how to explain it.
So
and
what is the
it's
purpose?
very emotional.
So what is the purpose of channeling within a light language, the Mother Mary energy? What is that doing?
For me, in that moment, it was giving me clarity. It was giving me an answer to something I needed that I had been asking my guides for. It was giving me comfort and validation, or it more importantly, it was helping me unravel this like heal this like familial I don't want to say wound, because but you know, we say we need like karmic healing or whatever. She was there in that particular moment to help me understand something about my mother, my aunts, my grandparents, my grandmothers, helping me to like not hurt anymore about the things that used to hurt me about the relationships with those women in my life, or the lack of them, or the lack of intimacy, the things I wasn't taught, the lack of touching. I went for a long time in my life where I didn't want to be touched. I didn't like to be hugged. I didn't want to be. So it was helping me. And sometimes I wasn't even aware of exactly what it was. And then I would realize, as if when she was there with me, all of that would start to unravel in me. And I would understand, oh, I'm healing something from my experiential past that I wasn't even aware of. But as I'm seeing it, I'm watching it unfold. I'm watching it actually unravel. And I'm realizing that the pain of that belief that I had about that circumstance, I can now look at it from a different perspective, like turning the kaleidoscope, and I can look at it from a completely new perspective, from perhaps Mary's perspective. I don't know, but to see it from a different perspective and to raise my vibration to a frequency, if we want to call that healing, to a place where I no longer feel pain or sadness or victimization. When I remember those people, when I remember those circumstances, now I'm able to look at that circumstance from a place of unconditional love that I never could before. And it's as if the floodgates open. That's what she came to tell me. That's what she came to help me with in that very moment.
So for you, that manifested through the light language, the speaking light language.
Right.
Speaking. Do you think it's enough to hear them, or do you need to speak them?
I think it's enough to hear them, because I don't know that it's in everybody's path to speak them. I think that in a lot of ways, sometimes it's in some people's path only to hear a little bit. And it's in some people's path, of course, to embrace it fully and speak it and apply it and teach it. And in my experience over the last few years, in people asking me, do you do this? Can you do this? Can you teach me? Can you help me? It has developed into this idea that this is something that's going to be very important over the next several hundred years. about opening up this planet to all the things that we all want. And whether it be disclosure or you know, first contact, the ability to, you know, interact with interstellar. And so I'm getting more and more information about how important it is that these get out there, and how more and more of those that I'm interacting with on a day-to-day basis are coming because they're the teachers who are going to be teaching and using and learning intuitively how to use them for themselves, and how they may use them in their own healing practices, should they be, you know, using them or guided to use them in the outside world. And these, I truly believe that as I share these images that I draw, and you see more and more of them on Facebook now, and asemic writing, and so you're seeing a lot more people sharing and drawing light languages. And the more people are sharing, the more people are being activated, the more it's happening. And now they're showing me how we need to start gathering more, those of us that are doing this, and gathering more, and then also going out, you know, into the world and doing it. And I will say, you guys, really briefly, that this whole circle that has come in, me being here in Human Colony and doing this webinar today, is literally my dream. I'm living my dream come true. From the moment I started speaking these languages, it was as if they were showing me visions of me, that I would be doing this. And just last weekend,
excuse me.
That's okay.
This is what I said. I thought I turned that up.
That's okay. Somebody's Skyping her.
I have got a, what is it called? Will told me I've got a telemarketing group.
Oh.
That is calling my Skype number nonstop, and I muted all my Skypes because the phone calls come like every hour. So yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Got to be a way to block that, right?
Let me ask you a couple questions. So one, I'm going to ask you the second question first. So you have your light language that you've written, right? And then you have a light language that you speak. Can you read what you've written, or is it a visual light language as opposed to an auditory light language? And it's the auditory light language which you speak what you write.
You know, that is a really good question, Karen, because I get that question probably on a daily basis.
Well, answer the question, woman. Is it or not? Are they not? Is one tool and the other one is another tool, or are they?
I have seen them in my experiences thus far. It has been not my experience always. Sometimes yes, but it has been mostly my experience that I can look at this and not tell you what it means, because. So I would say that in my experience, in most cases, they're pretty separate. I've resisted recently a lot of people want to send me their work and ask me, what does this mean? And I've come to the understanding that is not my job. And I would be doing them a disservice rather than a service. And that's come to me extremely powerfully in the last few days, actually. However, I have written some, and I don't want to dig through all my I have literally just pads and pads and pads and pads of these things. I've been doing them for years now. So I really need to put a book together.
Well, do you know
that's
the consistencies between them? Do you know the difference between, say, one language or another language?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they'll say to me, this is from the Sirius constellation. These are the Pleiadians. This is the Pleiadian High Council. Sometimes they'll say this is the shamanic council. Sometimes. So yes, a lot of times they will tell me. I will write it on there. I'll write any information I'm receiving. The other day I did one, and they said we are the essence of 11, because I've come to understand, because of numerology and each of us choosing a birthday and a month and all of that, and the birth path number, when you add all your birth date together. That's the number you came to resonate with. And mine is 11. I was born, I'm 11 path number. This is the 11th month of the 2018 11 year. And they specifically said to me last on the 11-11-11 gateway, you know, we are the essence of 11. That is, it's as if it's an actual energy. And so that's an example of where they said to me, this is what this transmission is from. So yes, it can be an interpretation of what they're telling me this information is. Sometimes they'll tell me it's a chakra activation. Sometimes they'll tell me it's to heal a specific thing. This is for this. Sometimes it just comes through and I'm really not sure what it means or where it's from. Sometimes I can even cry. I'll sit and cry while I'm writing them and I have no idea why. So it can be an interpretive situation. And sometimes, much like the light languages themselves, often it's just meant to be observed. They've been showing me I've had many dreams and with other members in Human Colony in the dream where the symbols themselves have been floating. They're just floating everywhere. They're like almost holographic and they're floating on everything, over everything, around everything. And I had a dream the other day. It was a very lucid dream about, there was this very large sphere, like almost not planet size, but it was so large that when we stood up to it, we were like really small standing next to this sphere. And it was a very interesting lucid dream where I was, and I have lots of dreams about teaching people light languages. And I have a lot of dreams about I have a lot of people tell me I've been in their dreams teaching them light languages. So that's interesting. So in this dream, I was not collecting, but it was like I was in charge of people coming up to this sphere and speaking their light languages into this giant sphere. It was almost like we were making some record, like we were making a library of languages. And that's kind of maybe even what they might have said to me. So I wake up from this dream and it was like 5:55, you know, 2 days in a row now, I've woken up at 5:55 yesterday and today, by the way, this morning. So I wake up and I have to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and I'm like, oh my God, this is really important. Whatever I'm doing, I need to finish doing this. This is one of the first times I've ever had this experience, this quite lucid experience. So I go to the bathroom, come back to bed, and I'm like, I got to go right. I went right back into that dream, was standing next to that sphere again. Again, people were coming, like all of you guys, for example, who speak languages or write them, sign them, sing them, toning. We haven't gotten into that, but that's a whole nother level of light language. So we were standing there and all these people I was in charge of having everybody speak or, you know, whatever their language is to this giant sphere. And then I would say something after each person to like seal it into the sphere. I know this sounds weird and doesn't make sense, but so then like an hour later, I wake up again because I'm so thirsty. So I take a drink of water, get up, go pee again, come back. And I'm like, I'm not finished. I went back into the dream and finished the job of making sure that all the languages that needed to get in to this sphere, whatever the sphere was, that got sealed into this giant sphere. And it was almost like a coppery color, maybe a brownish, shimmery, kind of a shiny color. And and as I'm talking, I'm doing this because the whole time we're standing there, it's as if the sphere is sitting, but it's tilted. It's almost like it's tilted on an axis. And each person is walking up to it and speaking into this big part of it. And then it got sealed. And then I woke up. And so that just happened like a few days ago. And so I believe too, that these languages are also for us to open up those astral gateways where we can remember what we're doing together on a higher level. and what it is that we're all here to do here, and bringing that information and that energy through. That whole sphere thing with the languages, I'm still not exactly clear what the purpose of that thing is, other than to literally, it was almost like this, I'm hearing in my head, master recording.
Perhaps. I have something to share with you, and I don't know why, but I'm going to share it with you anyway.
But then please do.
If there's any questions from within the chat or whatever, please say if you have a question for Wendy, you can put in that you do have a question. But I was walking home yesterday. I think I was walking home from the store with the dogs, and I walked into a song, just the beginning of the song. And so I kind of caught the song. And then I was like, okay, I got to go. If I want to, it was a country song, funnily enough. And I was like, okay, I guess I could go home and write this song down if I want to. But that's usually how things come to me. Like I'll be walking along or doing something, and I always have the idea that it's floating by, and I may or may not walk into it, and if I don't grab it, then it goes on to the next person or somewhere else. And when you were talking about being in the forest and getting the light languages, where else do you pick them up?
Everywhere, all day. I actually will make up words to song, and these are English words, but I make up lyrics to songs all day. I wish I could stand around recording all day long, because they just come to me. And it's weird that you said that, because I don't record them and I don't write them down, and they're gone. They're gone. I don't remember a word. And it's like, so it was weird when you said that, like I have to get it, because if I don't get it, it's going to be gone. And but the light languages themselves will come to me. Oh, wow. Like water is the first place I channeled the Elohim, was in the shower. They came to me and they said, we are Ileana of the Elohim. We are the mirror of God. We are the mirror of source. We are a reflection of God. And I burst into tears. I didn't even know what the Elohim were. So, oh my gosh. And I just realized somebody in the chat, Lily Pat, I saw a question on the chat, and they said, is it possible that snoring can be kind of a language? And that's really funny, because my husband snores too. So funny you say that.
That might be pushing it, but maybe.
But anyway, hard to say.
The question is, because you talk about teaching, how do you teach a light language? How do you teach to someone else?
It's it's funny. Learning light language is less about teaching somebody how to create the sound from their throat. It's more about helping them release who they really are, and whatever is preventing them. If it's something they really want to do, they already can do it with or without me. The point is that sometimes there's stuff, like, how when you get really emotional, or you don't speak your truth, it gets stuck in your throat, and you get it just gets stuck in here someplace. Or you get really scared because you have to have a conversation with somebody that you don't want to have, and you get that sicky, icky feeling in your throat. Your whole throat chakra closes. So it's interesting how any other blockage anywhere else, from your toes all the way up, will stop right here if you don't take care of it. It will, and then it prevents us from reaching our third eye and opening our crown chakra. So when we say teaching somebody, we can go through the vocals, we can go through the vocal exercises if that's what the person thinks that they need. But typically it's more about the releasing of whatever it is that's keeping them from thinking they can't, or thinking they can't do it. So it's like, well, yes, you already can. You already are connected to the angels, and I can give you the blessing that says you now have the capability of speaking these languages, but trust me, you already had it. So it's just helping the person along to say, I believe that I can do this. And if this is something that's really going to be, that I'm really excited to do and learn and teach, then it must be part of my path. But again, remember everyone, no expectations, because speaking the light languages themselves, I didn't expect it would take me the places that it did take me, because I didn't have expectations. And then once I started actually applying my own limitations and expectations on the languages, I started to realize I was doing myself a disservice, and I was actually keeping things from presenting themselves to me. So nature, especially, anybody who watches my videos will know from the very beginning, it's always been about nature. It's been about connecting with the elements, literally connecting with the air that we breathe. Literally, I mean, how many times I do it almost every day, go outside and thank the trees, because without them, guys, we wouldn't be breathing. It's, this is the alchemy of its finest. We breathe in what they breathe and so forth. So yesterday I said again to the trees, thank you, because of what you give me. You give me my oxygen, and I give you what you need. So it's about, the light languages truly are about helping us connect also to the awareness that you really are connected to everything. And when you actually begin to understand, oh, wait, if I speak light languages to my water, and that's a whole nother subject, but if I speak it to the trees or the earth or Gaia, I'm literally changing the vibration of the earth that I'm on. I'm literally connecting to another part of me. And I begin to understand more fully that that leaf on the tree, or that blade of grass, or that flower, or that frog, or whatever we're looking at, is having its own experience. Yet it's also teaching me something about my experience, and it's also speaking a language of light. How many of you have sat with an insect or a bird and literally realized you're having like this telepathic connection with it? And it may not be English words, it may not be words in your native language, but it's a physical connection. And once we begin to speak the languages and use them out in nature, we begin to understand our connection to all things, and it begins to show us the God within us. It begins to give us this sense of power within ourselves, that we really are able to create our own reality. It's almost like all of these one thing's connected to the other. And once you start to understand how numerology is connected to the trees, and how when you're walking out and you're literally connecting to the earth itself, the energy of Gaia. I was speaking a language one day, and we were in a Saturday webinar, and Jim said, that is Gaia. That is you that's Gaia speaking, and you having your own private conversation with Gaia. So it begins to open up to the reminder that oneness, today equaling one, about unity, that we really are a part of all that is, that all things are a part of all things, and that what we think we don't have is already a part of us. We always think the answer is somewhere out there, but there is no out there outside of all that is, because all that is contains everything that's in all that is ever been and is being created. So by virtue of that, and by virtue of sharing these languages and connecting with all these things, you begin to truly understand your connection to all these things, but also your ability to physically manifest your own reality. You begin to understand, it starts to unravel the illogicalness of the thoughts and belief systems that were tied to the things that you thought you couldn't do, because you held these belief systems within you. And it's interesting how all of that and the light languages and nature can help you begin to unravel all these belief systems that truly keep you from speaking your own truth. And that, whether it comes out in a light language or not. So I would suggest also to people who want to do it, to start with singing, humming, toning, because there's no expectation there. And you can just start to let it out. And so it's more about teaching a person to become more one with themselves and become intimate, have an intimate relationship with themselves and the world around them, and allowing what happens for them specifically for their own expansion and experience, for them to be able to open that up because mine is going to be different from another person. I just happen to be really excited about connecting with collectives. So one of the first ones I connected with was the Avian Collective because I just happened to be out in nature, and I found out by happenstance that when I was speaking light languages out loud in nature or even telepathically, all of a sudden the birds would start to like collect around me in the trees by the hundreds. And in my videos, literally I've been walking and they would just start and they would get louder and louder and louder. So you start to understand, wow, there is something to this. I really can connect with it. And then you start to hear stuff. One of the first people that made their transition that I connected with in the forest one day when I very first started Human Colony was, if you remember Kim, her daughter Kalia. Her daughter Kalia was 17 and she made her transition to leukemia. And I heard it plain as day. And I would just started doing all of this and languages and hanging out with everybody. And I heard her plain as day. And she gave me a message that I gave to Kim, and Kim burst into tears because she knew right away I could not have known that had I not heard it, because I didn't know her. I didn't know Kalia. I barely knew her. So, and I barely knew Kim. I mean, so it was even weird that like I didn't even know if I should share this information with her because I hardly knew her, but I did, and I was glad that I did. So does that help answer that question?
I don't remember.
Well, it was where do I connect and
keep you on one straight line.
I know that's who I am. I'm very multidimensional. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. I know I'm hard to follow.
No problem. So I'm going to ask you to answer in a short sentence, and then I'm going to follow it up with another question.
Okay.
So someone who wants to speak a light language, what do they do?
And that is, again, start there. Speaking, walk in nature, spend time alone in meditation, ask to speak to whatever guides, say out loud or in your mind, in your intention, in your heart.
Ritual. Give them like a
I'm
open,
and this is it. This is what I do. Yeah. I am open to connecting with my guides through light languages. Mm-hmm. I am open to connecting with my angels through light languages, and allow it. And then you will be guided to what to do for you personally as your particular permission slip in order to do that. You may be guided to a person to get a session with. You may be guided to spend more time in nature. You may be guided to spend more time taking a bath, because water is such a good connector. You may be guided to listen to other kinds of music that you've never listened to before. You may be guided, to a particular crystal. There are particular crystals that resonate at particular frequencies. And you can even ask, what permission slip would work for me the best that would help me open up to my light languages and help me connect to anyone who wishes to. In that hangout, that moment, I had never spoke a light language before. And she said to me, okay, Wendy, you've been here for a little while. Would you like to try it? Would you like to speak languages? And I simply closed my eyes and I said, okay, and telepathically. And my heart was just pounding, I was so scared. And I said, okay, guys, really briefly, I just said, if there's anybody who wishes to speak through me now in light languages, or if there's anyone who has a message or wishes to connect with me, I am open to the language. And it just poured out. I was shocked myself.
So go into nature, find a place where you feel that you are connected either through water, a bath, or some
and ask. It's all about asking. Ask what will work for me. What will work for me? I am asking my guides, each of you ask your guides what will work for me if this is something I really want to do. And you will automatically just kind of be, it's not like you'll just automatically be kind of guided to do some things. It could even be, you may be guided to a particular change in diet. You could be guided to a particular place to go that you've never been before. You could be guided to, there's a lot of ways that they speak to us that will tell you what you need to do in order to do it. That's the thing, is that it's more about trusting the information you get, even if it's, oh, go have a cup of tea or sit down with a journal. You know, you'll get the message that you need for you, and that will lead you to the next step.
Jess asks in the chat, she wanted to know, did you always receive the interpretation of the light language? She said she's been letting it flow for a few months now, but she's not sure what the messages mean, if they mean anything.
No, not really. And to be really honest with you guys, being here in the webinars with Jim on Saturday webinars, when he the very first time I ever heard him translate something I said in light languages, I burst into tears because I thought, oh my God, I actually received that beautiful message and was able to this day, nobody interprets my light languages like Jim does. And the things that he is able to receive through what each and every one of us are saying to me is still one of the most profound experiences of my life, that I do not always receive clearly the information that he does. Yet then I have to ask myself too, though, is it the same exact interpretation, or is it his interpretation? Is it exactly what I'm saying? So I wonder, you know, I still wonder about that.
My mic wouldn't unmute. Jess was
okay.
talking about in the chat. She said, when I was asking about how do you teach the light language, she said she would speak gibberish until you recognize that it isn't anymore gibberish. And that's just about sort of like turning the faucet on kind of idea.
It is. It really is. And I think that secret language, my sister and I, well, my best friend taught it to me. We called it Chico. Some people called it gibberish. It was like, I'll say, like, my name is Wendy. Midiguy, nidiguy, midigiz, what again, didigi. That was it. So it's just a kind of a mixture of letters, and you can sort of hear the words. But I really think that my girlfriend teaching me that when we were just kids, I was probably maybe 12. And, but she was also the first one who came home from church one day and told me, oh, I went to this church that I've never been to before, and they were speaking in tongues. Now, that was the first time I had ever heard that either. So isn't it interesting that she would be the one to teach me that secret language, and she was the first one who ever used that term. I had never heard that term, speaking in tongues, before.
I wonder, this is something I've just came into my brain area of my head. Just kind of floated in. And I wonder if language is the right word. Because a language is replicable. It is interpretable. I mean, we speak, you understand what I'm saying. We all have it has a commonality of tone, a commonality of meaning, and it also has a specific way that it is written. And I wonder if the word language is not correct in identifying a tonal utterance that has specific activation qualities, and that actually has a doable, it does something. Do you know?
Maybe we're supposed to come up with a new word for it, because
transmission.
Because I use a lot of times in my videos, after I do a video, they'll say, I'll ask my guides, okay, what do you want me to call this video? What is it about? If I don't know ahead of time, then I'll ask after I've done it.
This is just my ponderance.
And sometimes they'll say that. They'll call it a transmission. Sometimes they'll call it a transmission. Sometimes they'll call it an illumination. Sometimes they'll call it just a message. So I just kind of go with whatever it is that they're telling me it is. So yeah, but you're right. If the actual definition of a language means that it's something that can be translated or interpreted, this is where this gets really, gray.
I mean, I know that there's probably not linguists that have sat down, but I can imagine that after many years, and for myself as well, of speaking different utterances, that you should start to find some common words and sounds that are replicable, that could be cumulatively brought together in a language. But it seems that, and it's also too the fact that the utterances are not usually remembered. Like if I say to you, the dog went to the store, 2 days later, I can remember that I told you the dog went to the store. But if I say to you, Shalia kasomya shalia nia faramara, 2 seconds later, I can't say that same back thing.
Exactly. That's interesting that you say that, because but isn't it weird though, how so many of us, and I've started to recognize this across the board, across the world, how many of us though will speak languages, or I can turn on a light language channel of a person I've never listened to before, and I know what she's saying. It's like same words, same dialect, I say same words, but yet if I, like you said, if I was asked to duplicate the same sentence twice, I don't know if I could. So it's very interesting, but yet we can come into a room and say, oh, you're speaking Sirian or you're speaking Pleiadian, but that's based upon what we've learned about what we've come to believe, compartmentalize and label it. Oh, well, that's Pleiadian. Oh, well, that's Sirian. Oh, well, that's Lyran,
Yeah, but I question if we're actually speaking an extraterrestrial's language.
Well, that's what but yet 𝗪𝗧𝗧 will come in, and 𝗪𝗧𝗧 has taught us words. I mean, she'll tell you muha means love, so she'll say, so she has taught us words. 𝗪𝗧𝗧.
Okay.
So 𝗪𝗧𝗧 one day sat and she taught us about, I don't know, maybe half a dozen words in Lyran, and gave us the actual definition and how they're used in a sentence. And
I'm not debating that the Lyrans have a language. I'm debating that the people that are speaking Glacia,
right,
are speaking.
That's Lyran. What I'm saying. So for me to say, oh, I'm speaking Sirian, it's because of two things. It's because, one, it's what I'm energetically receiving, that they're like, it's almost like I get this, I don't know, like a pulse or something where it says, oh, this is from Sirius. And yet sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they'll tell me this is the angels. It's like, I know right away, this is the angels speaking. I could tell by the language. I can tell by what. But I don't know how I know. But then there's the other way is because I may have seen somebody on a light language video, whether it's yesterday or 5 years ago, because everything's now, and they said, oh, I'm speaking Sirian. So now if I speak a dialect that sounds like that, right away, my brain, because human and we have to compartmentalize and label everything, I would say, oh, I must be speaking Sirian. Bam, now we've locked that in. Well, that could be, it may not be that at all.
I can imagine it has Sirian energetic origin.
Exactly.
It may not be the actual language of the Sirian. Well, I mean, the Sirians, just like saying earthlings, have hundreds of, if not
exactly,
languages.
And this is what they want people to understand, is that we all have to understand the immensity of creation, and to label a language as one particular star system is really doing everybody and all of us a disservice, because it can be in any given moment a transmission of every single thing all at one time. And we just can't even begin to comprehend these kinds of concepts. Yeah. Yet we're trying to understand it.
Yeah. Jesse says that we need to expand our idea of language. I agree that
exactly
languages that are, you've got language of computer language, which is not.
Yeah.
You've got music, which is a language, but there is a consistency and there is a definable parameter of what the language is, and it's replicable, and that's what I think I think that's why light language. I think the word language itself doesn't correctly describe light language, because it doesn't fit the definition of language, even in the broadest sense. That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons
I'm trying to say.
Well, that's one of the reasons they've said to me, well, they use codes. They'll use like codes. They'll use the word code, because these are words that using, because this is the only closest thing that we can comprehend that they're trying to show us. And we're trying to take a word in our language and put it to the thing that they're trying to show us, me. And the closest thing that they can come up with so far is codes, light codes. We're sending you like Morse code. We're sending you a code of a string of energies, because even math, every single thing in creation can be transferred to something. In other words, a mathematical equation can become a physical thing, and so we can't even begin to understand the immensity of what is involved in one small light language transmission. It's still it really is beyond our limited vocabulary. It truly is.
Because it's beyond our ability to understand, and I'm just going to just because I know people start freaking out if I ask this, how do we know it's good?
Well, that's a very good question, because that's one of the very first things that most people will ask me, including my own family.
I don't think it's not good. I really think it's not good, but how do we know?
That's a very good question. It was the first question that my own husband asked me when I first told him. And last weekend, I came out to my whole family, thanks to my mom. Hi, Mom. So, yeah, my mom proceeded to tell me that I'm out of the closet and have been for many, many months, although I didn't know it. But so that's kind of funny. But that's one of the first things she said to me too. Was, how do you know? How do you know what you're saying, and how do you know it's good? And all I can say to that is, through my own experiences throughout my life and through what I've learned through private sessions with Jim, but more importantly, from what I've always known about me and my heart and who I am, there is no way for me to validate that it isn't. I think that each and every one of us knows and vibrates in a place where I have always known that we, and this isn't just me, all of us have the complete capability to allow in, and I say allow in, that's not a good word. We have the opportunity and the capabilities to interact with anything in all that is, and we all have the ability to interact with something so we can learn from it without it actually having any kind of physical, emotional, or physical or spiritual effect on us. Effect meaning you do not ever become the victim of something that you don't want, unless you want to have that experience. But you have to understand that's a valid experience. That doesn't make it bad or not real.
Micheline says we're not to intellectualize these messages.
Exactly.
From the heart. I disagree. I don't think thinking. Well, let me say this. I don't think.
No, go ahead. I mean, it's hard not to. It is hard not to.
Let me finish. She says we're not to intellectualize these messages. They are from the heart. Nothing is gibberish. Some things are gibberish. Trust this. This is the most difficult thing to do. I believe, honestly, that if we're given the ability to speak these languages, then we also have the ability to have some inkling into the necessity of it, the worth of it, and the reason for it. And to just blindly trust something because someone says, oh, well, it's too much to intellectualize. Nothing is too much to intellectualize. We are here to expand and to learn and to know, and to just blindly accept something because you say it's good or anybody says it's good. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I absolutely don't believe that at all. But to say, oh, just blindly accept it and just take everything that everyone says on face value just because they say it and they don't want to go there. Maybe it hurts their brain too. But I love musing about it, because the deeper I can understand it, the more mechanically I can enjoy it.
Hey, can I just chime in here for a minute? This is Micheline.
No.
What I mean by what I just wrote this. Oh, hi, Wendy. Sorry, I want to say hello to you first, and to all of you here. I find that we live in a world where we do intellectualize everything, and this is really. I don't think so. I think we need to get away from that. And I'm a culprit in this. I'm very much an intellectual, and I find that it's a rabbit hole. There are things that are just, we're not meant to think with our minds now. And it's not to accept everything. We need to use our heart and our feelings first.
You can also think with your heart, honey. You can do that as well. And thank God for the scientists that do pick apart stuff, because there's a whole world. You split open an atom, and there's a whole world in there to find and to relish and to understand. But maybe for you, you don't want to pick it apart. Maybe you feel like that's a rabbit hole for you, but to just blanketly just make a statement, I respectfully disagree.
Well, everyone has the right. I think everyone has a path, perhaps. And I'm done with the intellectualizing, because I've been doing it for 30 years. And I just thought I just figured out that there's something missing, that it was just too one-sided, that I need to open up to other ways of expansion. It's not to say that what you're saying is untrue, or I think that just there's a point where there are things we're not going to find the answers on the internet. We're not going to find the answers in our minds. That's basically what I'm talking about. I'm not blanking.
And that's true, because everything is true, and everything, obviously every perspective is a perspective. And what's interesting about what you said, Micheline, is that I'm hearing that is part of your path was, in order for you to more fully trust your heart, that's exactly what you had to what message you needed to retrieve and receive from that experience was, I need to not intellectualize so much and trust my heart. And I think light languages is the biggest example of trusting your heart. Because like Karen said, or asked, how do you know? It's all about trusting what you feel inside your heart, and knowing I know without a shadow of a doubt that there is nothing but pure, highest love intention, and beings coming through me. I never, ever once have had a negative experience. I have never once had, I've never have worried ever that what I'm saying is anything less than absolutely, completely loving and of the highest source energy and of light and benevolence, whatever that means to me,
Okay, but I just want to say something about that, because I listen to you quite often, Wendy.
Thank you.
And I find that everything that I have ever listened on your channel has had like a physical effect on me, and in just in the most positive ways. And so I can attest to that personally. Now everyone will, again, will have their own. I don't want to take away from, each path, but I'm just saying that I think that if we have to take the mental out. I think our society has gone so much in the mental that this is where we're at now. This is a new era. And so I've said my piece. That's good.
Well, that's true. No, I appreciate you mentioning that, because this really is a time for all of us to be opening our heart space and trusting our gut, trusting our intuition. And I really think that that's really the biggest message here about
I would like to chime in real quick. Excuse me. This is Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Hi. Yeah. So the way I read that, we are not to intellectualize these messages. That I read that as not so much this is what we're supposed. This is like we can't do this, but as in there is we can intellectualize whatever we want, just like with anything else, but there's always a more efficient way. and from the heart would always end up being the more efficient way. It's just a matter of gaining the perspective to be able to see things from there. Not that we shouldn't intellectualize, because that's all part of the journey. It's just not necessarily always the most efficient way to go about it. Okay.
Okay, cool. There was a question that 𝗪𝗓𝗕 asked in the chat. I thought was a good question, and Dawn brought it up to ask it as well. So before it goes by, and I don't know, because I haven't heard this happen, but I have to take her word for it. She says, I wonder about some people with dementia speaking gibberish. If this could be a light language they're speaking.
Yes. I want to, let me just touch on that for just a brief second, because this idea of dementia and Alzheimer's has been very prevalent in my own family. We've lost multiple family members. I say lost, but you know, they have chosen that experience to make their transition. I think in a lot of ways, yes. I think that they're tapping into that higher aspect of themselves, because dementia, the way my guides have explained it to me, dementia and Alzheimer's, it just very lightly, is that they really are having their parallel experiences. And of course, to us, it's going to look like they're just crazy, which would, if anyone were to sit in the room with us while we're having a meditation, and if we were actually speaking different languages of different people, or channeling, you know, different entities to someone else who didn't understand what was happening, it would be pretty scary. They would really wonder what was going on with us. So they are actually having a multidimensional experience. And I believe that I've been told a few times from my guides, this is really weird, because it's almost like a validation for me that my guides have been telling us that we actually need to start speaking to these patients, these people, in light languages, because that's really what they're wanting to do, is they're wanting to connect with their multidimensional selves, but because of the belief systems and everything, they're like trapped in this belief system that they can't do that. And so they want, and it's almost like their bridge, the Alzheimer's, the dementia is a bridge, you know, to that other world, and that we should start speaking to them and singing to them in light languages. So very interesting that you mentioned that. Are you muted, Karen?
If you talk about like children with Down syndrome.
That too.
Yeah.
All of them. The children that gets into a whole nother education, you know, the whole with the kids and stuff. But yeah, the kids with the ADHD and all that. One of the things I really was excited about was that I was able to talk to my sister-in-law last week or on Thanksgiving Day here in the United States, this last Thursday. And I hadn't spoken to her since her daughter had committed suicide, my niece Autumn, right before her 16th birthday. So we had a very interesting conversation about Autumn, you know, her daughter. This is the first time I've spoken to Monica. If she's watching, hi, Monica. To her about me, what I do here, and my experiences with Autumn. I touched on it just a little bit. My experiences with telepathically connecting with Autumn since her passing. And it was not something I talked to in my family about at all, especially to them, because it was obviously a very sensitive subject. So, but very interestingly, because I was getting that like nudge that even the children, I've met a few people, you know, in our circles here, you know, of people that are hanging around here in the hangout whose children have been already exposed to light languages, and many people in human colonies' children have already been exposed to and have already begun speaking light languages. So that was something else that they had talked to me. My guides had talked to me a little bit about children and speaking to them in light languages, these children who are of, you know, higher dimensional and ADHD, and to because it's also a bridge. It's a bridge to their world. They're actually they're actually vibrating on a pretty high frequency, these children. And so even though we don't see it that way, and so this light languages can also be a bridge of communication to these children, especially the ones who are nonverbal. And so maybe all week long, I kept getting this thing where I kept touching my throat, and they were talking about, just children. And I kept hearing the hearing impaired, but I think maybe it's less about the hearing impaired and more about the speaking to the heart, that we aren't supposed to be hearing it necessarily with our minds and interpreting it, that it is supposed to be a vibration of the heart, a frequency of the heart. And that just like when you hold an infant and you're singing it a lullaby, even if there's no words, you've got that. It's the vibration, it's the touching, it's the warmth. Thank you for saying that, Micheline, about my channel, because that in of itself, out of everything else that I've ever had any, and I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but that is the most important thing for me to convey when somebody switches on my channel, has never seen me before, because this light language stuff can be very scary to be put out in the world. And we all wonder, how are we going to be received? But we all have to trust that the person who's coming there is because they need to be there. They've been guided there for a specific reason. Even the people who come to my channel and go take one look at it and go, oh my God, and give me a thumbs down and leave. And they needed to be there for whatever reason that was. And so we have got to trust that we're being guided to this. And it is very scary to get out there in the world and do this. And the more of us that are doing this, it took how many years now? It'll be almost 4 years in January that I started my YouTube channel, Languages of Lights. And it took all this time before my family to find it, because it wasn't time for them to even, if they'd have seen it a year ago, they probably would have run freaked out.
Right.
But it means a lot to me that what the vibration is love, is highest good, of just wanting to each and every person to find their own light and then help others find theirs. That to me is the reason for the Languages of Lights.
So what did you say to your sister? Because that's what you started with, but you didn't ever say what you said.
My sister, it was just telling her about, we didn't get into the languages too much. She touched on it just a little bit, but I realized in that moment though, that these languages were something that these children, I truly believe, and this is actually a whole nother webinar, but I truly believe that these children, that if we start opening up this stuff to them, they're going to feel more accepted. And I really believe that, because social media and bullying had a lot to do with, I believe had a lot to do with her choice. It had like almost everything to do with it. And it was almost a direct result of something that happened on social media. But of course, we know that isn't the real reason, but it's also a path. And of course, all the players in the whole thing. But I believe that had she known maybe more about me and being different, being open to this, I wonder how many children, we can save, who are confused right now because they're such high vibrational beings that they're having a hard time understanding how to navigate here. And the teenage suicide and depression rate is skyrocketing. So I really believe that the implementation of light languages and these symbols, I've been guided about symbols too. I start to get like really emotional when I talk about it, and I know it's real, and that I'm being guided to it for a really good reason. And I feel like this is a bridge, that these are going to be a bridge for these children, and to help them understand how brilliant they actually are, that them being different is why they came. And isn't that what we all came to understand too, is that our uniqueness is the reason that we came. And had she really fully embraced her own uniqueness and understood that she was completely loved and supported, I have to wonder if she might have chosen a different path. Now, of course, we can't do that or second guess or wonder what the reason was for that whole alchemization. And what each of us in this family, my family, have learned because of her transition, it has changed my life in ways I can't even describe to you, especially with respect to all of this. So I really believe that these symbols and these languages have something to do with these children.
Yet? Have you had any contact with any children speaking languages, or you've done any?
I have, yes.
And what's
Yes.
the result? And what was
Mhm.
what was the setting?
They actually are not afraid to talk about that they're connecting to other star worlds. They're not afraid to talk about. I met a boy the other day, and in just by happenstance in a hangout that we were and he was 10 years old, and he fully talks about energy. He's 10 years old, and he talks about energy to his classmates. He talks about healing. He sees other beings around, and he sees those that have made their transition, and he is very open about it with other children. So I think we're going to see this helping children in a myriad of ways.
So for someone who wants to write a light language, do you write through automatic writing, or?
I do both. I do a lot of channeling through automatic writing, where I get a lot of information where I'm actually writing, but it's them talking. I get a lot of different kinds of channeling through that way. But as far as the symbols themselves, yeah, for example, I'll just, they'll just kind of guide me to.
Your picture's a little blurry, so can you hold it up and hold it for a second so the camera can?
Oh, okay, hang on. I just held it up really quick, just to, I'll just be guided one day, or any given moment. Misana soto shapeliano con la poshina toriki kiana setalusa nateshea. Na mereshia nodoriando kia ba aluko torshinosa teta. Tamina niasa ko puko niana na tidiko darshinosa sona teteki. Shona satoriando ro shomoko atalasa sanasa. Tokurianda sanatido bugoanada kasha tati into sapodu kotarashana seso. Somunana nadadan kiara. And sometimes I won't.
I don't know if they could see it.
Yeah, I'll hold it up again. I just was showing how the progression and sometimes I'll be speaking telepathically in light languages while they're coming through, or sometimes it's
and write at the same time.
Right. Sometimes it's at the same time. Sometimes I'll do videos where I'm actually speaking and writing at the same time. Okay. It's still a little challenging for me, not challenging, but sometimes I feel like I need to be doing one or the other, but I often, like right now, it's coming out all at the same time. So I feel like the message is connected. Le makai no na kabragodia sasabaleando ya kura baki senator to Pelako Yashatore, Simikiana Niatoria Puna Maya to Korea Susapalation to Beda Inania. So basically, they're telling me right now that we need to expand. Miasotoshame Ela Korea, but always a Simosuno Padiano Kola Oimiasha. Gosh. Expand our ideas while still letting go of the old ideas in order for us to be completely centered. And it's today's is about being centered, number one. So in order for us to be centered, we truly need to expand our ideas of. They're showing me right now even that because we're human, our human mind, which is what it's meant to do. Our human mind needs to know, and it needs to label and compartmentalize, because we don't know how to have a physical, emotional reaction about something until we have a definition. If we don't have a definition, we feel rattled because we don't know how. If we can't define something, we don't know how. We don't even know how to have an emotional reaction because we're already intellectualizing the emotional reaction we're supposed to have. So I get what you're saying, Micheline, too, but in that respect, that we and to let go of that rationalization, that intellectualization, that we may expand our ideas, because even they're saying by us compartmentalizing and labeling even the languages, we're not allowing ourselves to expand in the idea of how they could be used. And they just showed me, you guys, right now, this is how this comes. So they showed me a picture of a hospital. They just showed me pictures of like meditation rooms. They showed me a picture of how to actually bridge this with the medical world. Medical meaning this is going to be a whole, as we can already see it's happening, this is going to be literally light languages, symbols, all of this is going to be a whole nother level of where our healing processes are going. And these are going to begin to be used in conjunction with with the medicine that we know, on both sides of the world, and embracing all of this. And finally, because the children that we're talking about today are going to be the physicians, they're going to be the ones who are going to be in creating these new hospitals, these new healing centers, because we are finally beginning to understand that the disease, anything that we manifest physically as an illness or a disease, is simply because of something that we believe is true about ourselves that isn't, or that we're not speaking our truth, we're not living our highest joy for whatever reasons that we believe we can't. That's what this is all about. And that prevention is the cure. Prevention is the cure. If we bring up children to feel loved, complete, supported, in control, centered, aware of what they want with their lives, what they came to do, even if it's being nonverbal, that is what is going to change. That is what's going to create this new world where we really do heal ourselves holistically, but we're understanding that it's vibration. Just like Tesla said, everything is frequency of vibration. If you guys, once you begin to understand that everything is frequency and vibration and resonance, you will begin, it's almost as if they're showing me like the hospitals themselves, we know them, are literally, they're like dissolving from my reality in my mind right now and being replaced with, they're showing me that there won't be as many sick people because, you know what I mean? Because we're actually starting out as holistic, healthy beings to begin with, and teaching each other how to get through these belief systems that are creating these physical illnesses. So see what I mean? I could go on and on about this stuff and all that from this, you guys. See what happens when you draw?
So does anyone have any questions for Wendy? My question is, I think it's interesting to talk about the children. Have you thought about creating any kind of program or any kind of...
I have. It's so on the radar, all of this for me, creating programs with the children. And I want to encourage all of you out there who are already dealing with children or in any capacity or familial situations to take this into heart and to see how it may be able to incorporate. And yes, I absolutely, Karen, to answer your question, it has been the education system of our children and implementing these types of things like language, meditation, opening dialogue between children to where they can talk to each other about their own experiences with their own awarenesses, is going to change our education system. And so that's been huge on my radar. For some reason, since I started speaking languages, I kind of understood there was this connection. And of course, then we've got the connection with the hybrid children, which I'll just briefly say that the children on Earth today and what we're doing with these children and the languages, and I'm speaking to them in one of their languages right now, which is, in the sign, because many of our hybrid children are telepathic only. So the children will be preparing for the next couple of decades. Because remember, any child that's 2 now in 10 years is going to be 12 and so forth. So in 20 years, the babies are going to be 20, and these are the kids that are going to be in the next couple of decades, ushering in and creating the frequency of the vibration of the planet where we can actually interact with these hybrid beings and our star families. So it's imperative that we begin to understand it's got to start with our children. It has to. Look at all of us who are trying to heal as adults. And this is where it's got to start. And we've got to start with these children and social media and showing them this love and support that they're craving, and yet they're looking for it on social media, and then they're not getting it, and then because they're not solid in themselves, they're not sure of themselves, and so when they don't get that validation from social media, they crumble, and they don't know how to process it. And it's up to us to help these children through all of this. The internet is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful tool. You know, but like everything else we experience here on this planet, it also has polarity. And so we've got to be mindful about that. But yes, education in the children is the bridge to the spiritual connection, the opening up of our telepathic abilities as a global consciousness. I think we're already seeing that in all of these ways. So I think this is validation for all of us. It's time to get busy, that anybody's watching this, you're in that frequency. You're a teacher, you're a teacher of the teachers. This is what you came to do. That's why we're here. Own it, be it, embrace it, emanate it, and go out and do it. And if you're being guided to do something, it's because don't go into it with any expectation. I don't know as far as how I'm going to do this with the kids or when or how, but I know I will. And maybe, just maybe, it's got nothing to do with me doing it at all. Maybe it's got only to do with me and Karen asking the question and me saying it for whoever else is out there doing this to go do what you do with the children. So it could be something as simple as I'm just the facilitator,
It's all possible. It's all possible.
You
Jess said she wants to know, do we still have time to speak on our own? I guess she wants to speak her light language. Maybe.
I would like to, yes. And I'd like to actually, if there's any final questions, it's funny. I didn't even channel today. I had all these things I was going to channel and information, but hey, it went where it went. So yes, I would absolutely like to take these last moments for all of us to share, anybody who wants to share light languages that wish to. So I'll let you kind of drive that train, Karen.
Well, if there's someone that wanted to, if someone wanted to speak their language, Jesse, you would ask the question. So if there was something you wanted to say and or share, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love that. I was actually getting bits and pieces. I was hearing something along the lines of see, now it kind of like escaped me. So I'm like, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to put my 2 cents in.
Do you know what you were saying, Jesse? Or do you know what how do you say the transmission's message was? Or
it's a feeling. It's
just a feeling?
I don't when I see it's happening right now, I'm looking back and I'm looking at it, and it's confusing everything. That's why I don't like
as soon as I went back,
I don't like defining.
I think
it was
too, it's like there's what we said in the beginning, and this is the point I was making earlier, is that there's certain languages that are actual language communications where you can say, okay, this is a language. There's other things that are just sort of maybe an utterance of some kind of joy and or love. And maybe some of them are more targeted. Maybe some of them are more like specifically healing towards a person, a place, a thing, a being, whatever. So that, there's maybe categorizations, but you don't know sort of until after you've uttered it,
well,
what it's for, who it's for.
The way I'm looking at it is that within infinity, that meant something somewhere. I just
True.
I just don't.
And I kind of felt like I was getting this impression sometimes. So when somebody speaks a light language, a lot of times I'll get a vision. I'll see a vision, and they're showing me kind of a vision, and it's just my obviously my interpretation of that transmission, and showing me a vision. And what they briefly kind of were saying a little bit, what I was hearing was, every language on your planet began from somewhere else. There is no, how do they see? Even it's hard to explain what they're trying to say, but they're showing me like every language on our planet came from came from somewhere else. And the words they used was, there is no new language. There is no new language. They're all a part of all that is. And each one of us who speaks these languages, there are always, by virtue, there are always going to be elements of every single language in everything we speak. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I wonder if you had, like, say, 5 people on an island, for instance, and the only thing that you were allowed to do was speak a sort of light language. I wonder how long it would take before that language would morph into an actual verbal.
I would think not long.
I think
I think it would not take that long. I mean, seriously, even maybe not even
maybe a month.
Exactly. I was just going to say not even years.
Yeah. Maybe it's
I don't think it would take that long.
Yeah, maybe it's the, how do you call it? It's the fact that people aren't around each other speaking these languages to each other, as more that they're speaking them sort of out into the universe.
Well, and that is something as we wrap up that they wanted to mention, that you guys are, because one of the things the emissaries of the light said to me is, you have to remember that absolutely everything speaks a frequency, a language of light. And that's why they told me to name the channel Languages of Lights. Right. And when we go out into the world, just say you're going to the grocery store or school or work or whatever, your aura sticks out way past you, and when you go and interact with somebody, eye contact with somebody, you actually are having a language of light, because you are actually acknowledging, that spirit within each other, which is why we call the windows of our soul. Because when you look someone in the eye, you can go about your day and go to the cashier and check out and do all your stuff and not even look the person in the eye. But as soon as you look them in the eye, you've created
connection,
a new something. And when we do that, we're understanding what I've begun to understand is that's also a language. And the ways we can use these are a myriad of ways. Go out, heal, send it to Gaia, send it to whatever you feel physically, even if you're not aware. This is, I have something I'm not aware of, and I would like these languages to help me understand what that is, that I may release what's blocking me. I will literally go into the grocery store and I speak languages to all the food. In that moment, I'm able to connect with all the people who produce that food, who put it on the cars, into the trucks and into the trailers and the trains, and the people who picked it in the fields, and the people who stock the shelves, and the people who are going to eat the food, and everybody who leaves the grocery store. And we make an impact whether you think you do or not. And I do all of this in a matter of a brief second, telepathically. Boom. It just takes a moment of awareness, and my whole interaction with everybody in the grocery store is different. Everything, you get the repeating numbers on your receipt. You find everything you need. You don't have to wait in line. You find the right parking space. It's all of that stuff is all about how we manifest and manipulate our physical world. Yeah. And when we remember, we're always emanating that. Whenever you go out anywhere else, you have to remember, so is everyone else. And so is every rock, every tree, everything. And we're all enmeshed in each other's energy. And when you begin to understand that, you begin to be a lot more cognizant of the energy that you're putting out there, because it's a complete reflection of what you're going to receive back in your reality. And that's what Bashar means by what you put out is what you get back. Niatosa me kiara sono pirano kia pasono tapeliando risabare kalian tarakai. Minania to goya sapashona kia koya paresono tia balaconiana shabara caniqua. Patero, sonia mariando sabariando shabajana giazazala, Zubaja jana kia zubariando shumogoriando shuma ananaka. Pliero coniamara kia sopo kia shana kielo se, somero no maya manaki wala cotero sonote da shawa. Atka kia nasata sopata kia. On Naya ku Naya Lia Nishamiono kaparianto samorukuna baru opokwa manasateje. Hekia sanaseno no nawakwaya. Miseno namania taki esatosa paki ashalo. Lamena maite. Tamite asana soko goyasha. Me miana. Mboko atasha nasela sina nenana nakua paloa. Pakero sono se shanoku. Payatayena nanakua placena. And I have no interpretation or anything for that. So I just invite anybody else who would like to offer a blessing as we close up.
Just need something he wants to read.
Sure.
Okay. This is from Jeffrey. He wants me to read this out for him. Okay, here we go. Sonuda undo ho a ta ha webu ove ta uhanu conservos tutna go kunis pauda hustuna osira achetna duhuatna untudi of all of thy all tuana redia verbena luska veva atusa achdiva hotosa badiga obuska padu ana menti paidoa zuna fadua amora duna kadika divua o ka nika jadua devera dodia rave gonana rusta abida achtoto kibuka adu uska duska di ketika zeduna veg dupe yonuska padu hona vena zeno papa ahde heo opa benjaha eter fonga ko nosta zenduka quinta nachdina sesa due sesa du to be Sodoska Govena Zaduke Ratore Abe Yotusa Sevex Vobis Kahna Webo Bevi Lomosa Sedu Bao Du Tuya Adu A Do Evermore Till Amora Dora Do With You. That's it.
And many of those words I feel as if I've spoken myself. Namaste. Thank you for sharing that.
Will wanted to say something. Go ahead, Will.
Hi, Will.
Hi, Wendy.
Will?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can't
hear you, Will.
No.
Can you hear me?
No. I can hear you, but you sound like you're way far away. We hear, can you hear me? That's what we hear. Is that what you heard? So the answer is yes, but not.
I wanted to show you guys too. Well, maybe Will can. This came to me after our hangout, after our Your True Light class. So this is an example of, after the class, I was inspired to draw this, and they specifically said this is, this is a message about emanating your true light. So, sometimes, yeah, I do get a knowing, and sometimes don't.
Yeah. Will's changing.
You there, Will? Oh, he's changing mics. Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to offer a blessing while we're waiting on Will? Please.
Someone else want to offer their light language? If they want to.
And that's okay. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, I was going to sing in light language.
Oh, yay. Yeah, we've been talking about that too, you guys. I've been, Karen and I were messing around after the hangout last week. So I said, yeah, we definitely got to do some singing light languages and bring her ukulele and stuff. I'm really excited about making music with light languages. Go for it.
Well, tell them about what you did with it, where they can find you singing, because I got to tune my.
Oh, yeah. So I did a really cool collaboration with Michael. I always call him Michael because I always think of Archangel Michael. Miguel Mendonça. He's written several books. We Are the Disclosure 1 and 2, Meet the Hybrids, Being with the Beings. And he also, so one day he contacted me and we've become friends since then. And he offered to put music on his computer synthesizer to my light languages. And then he had me send him some photographs, and he put a little slideshow together, and so we collaborated, and it's actually on my Languages of Lights page, and it's actually called Languages of Lights. And because that was the first time I had ever done that kind of a collaboration. And if you go to his channel, also it's on mine and his channel. His channel is We Are the Disclosure. I believe that's the correct. I'll double check that. I believe it's We Are the Disclosure, and there's me and my friend Jacqueline Smith and Vanessa Lamorte. Anybody who knows her, she was one of the first ones I ever saw speaking light languages. So he's collaborated with all three of us. And so you can actually see and hear and watch all of our 3 videos on his channel. So it was very exciting for me, because that was one of the very first things that when I started speaking light languages, that I always wanted to put this to music and sing and do, musical hangouts and, just bring the light languages with the drum circles. And a lot of times in my videos, you'll see I do my chimes and my singing bowl and things like that. So it was very exciting, but yeah, I'll put the link there if you guys, but anyway, it's on my channel, but I'll put the link there if you guys want to watch it, or listen to it. But it's really exciting, because the very first time I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, is that me? I was like, it would sound like me.
Will's ready. Go ahead, Will.
Ready, Will? All right.
You may or may not be ready. Will? We hear you even less than before. Aw.
He's muted.
He unmuted, but I don't see any mic action. No little green light.
Not
He's
muted.
speaking to us.
No.
Try again, Will.
I can hear the music, Karen.
Yeah, I'm just strumming.
I love it.
Well, while Will is figuring out his sound.
Play and sing. Go for it.
He'll join by phone. He's going to come back in. Omian Hariamuran. Never mind. I can't. I mean, not even the right. I was playing in the wrong. Omian Hariamuran. Boyamoania Shiabo Hario Omiano Anuma Hanuanaji Shibanabukuma Hanuanami Shibiomakuma Hanuanami Shimunubakuma Hanuma. That's all I'm gonna do. I won't roll back, Will.
Oh, I love it, Karen. That's great. We got to make some music, girl.
Will, are you there? I see 2 Wills.
Go, Will.
Can you hear me now?
We can
Hear you now, baby.
Oh, takatisa kanani ito ko hutai. Oh, Chuckles. I have no idea what was going on, but apparently Karen needed to sing.
Oh, well, I have a platform every week, Will. It's not a problem.
No,
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, Karen was a professional singer and dancer.
I'm not in the past tense.
Well, is, I should say, because you never really get rid of it, right?
Yeah. Anyway, but Wendy, we are out of time. So what is your YouTube channel?
Languages of Lights, plural, both ends. You can find me on Languages of Lights on Facebook as well. And WL Wolfe, which now, now that my family knows,
What was
I
the
guess
reaction? Were they like, wow, we don't know you?
it was kind of weird. It was a little interesting, but they were all very loving and very accepting. So we'll see how, like I said, it's only been a couple of days. It's only been a week since I found out. So we'll have to see where all this goes from here. But yeah, so say, hey, Will, did you get to say all the blessing you wanted to say? I just want to make sure, since you
Yeah. Since it was
I can talk all day long.
I know. Yeah, so
and do
Do you have any events coming
𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧
you can find me on Languages of Lights. I'm working on my website. So pretty soon it will be languagesoflights.com, but not just yet, but pretty soon. You can always connect with me also on the Human Colony website, the hucolo.org website. You can get there's links for all of us, me, Karen, Jim, Rob Gauthier, several of the other channelers. You can get a hold of me through there as well. I wanted to thank everybody for being with me today and thank all of you for your loving support. It's going on 5 years. I think that we've had that Human Colony has been, and I've been a part of this family, and it was here that I began speaking this. And so it's really exciting and an honor for me to be here today and to be on this side of the camera. It's really very special to me and for all of you. I want to thank every one of you who are here today, who watch my channel, who send me comments and who I interact with personally. These light languages have given me a gift of meeting all of you all over the world that it's a gift beyond, I can't even describe to you. So I just wanted to take this opportunity because I can to thank all of you for that, and to thank Jim and Max and Karen, everybody who's involved in this every week. Jim, being our star channeler, please do, if you have the opportunity, to subscribe to help us, pay the bills. And all the webinars are free unless Jim's channeling. And he has been an instrumental part of my life. And I wanted to thank him and Max, for this will always be my family, no matter where any of my world takes me. This will always be my family. And so I just wanted to thank all of you while I could.
Well, thank you very much. And it was very nice speaking to you. And it was nice to explore light language.
And Jim too, you guys too, don't forget too that Jim, and I know Karen, I think, does sessions as well. I do sessions, and Jim being the Galactic Reiki teacher and these classes, and just being a Reiki master teacher, and also being a channel, this is what he does for a living. So I would encourage all of you, if you haven't yet had the opportunity to have a session with Jim, if you have the opportunity to do so. I've had several with him, and they have literally changed my life. They have validated things and confirmed things for me. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there too, that this is what he does for a living. And so I would encourage you all to do that as well and support the channel if you can. And so yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Just remember, everyone, to hit subscribe and like today. That would be awesome. And we will.
And yes, I do sessions and I do all this stuff, and I can help with all that information's on my channel. So come and see me, and love you guys so much.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Can you hear me or not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much. Check out Wendy's channel, and we will see you next week. Next week will be Jim Charles channeling. So we'll see you very much. Much love to you, and namaste. Much love.